Shalom, Chakush. It is all Yud Bet, Adar Bet, Hatafshin Pei Bet. It is Tuesday evening, March 15th, 2022. I hope that this recording is clear. There's a heater in the background. I hope that you can hear me. So, Bezat Hashem, after we take a few moments to arrive and to connect, we are going to be learning part 2. Oh, hi, Shalom. Hello. We're going to be learning part 2. We began part 1 last night. So this is part 2 in a mimer or a teaching from the Nesivos Shalom, also known as the Shalom Rebbe. And this particular ma'amar, or this particular teaching, is called, Tachlit HaPurim Hadvikut B'Hashem. Oh, I get to see you. Hi, nice to meet you. We have a private kavusa. Right, so we began this last night. If you want to get last night's recording, that the essence of Purim, the height of Purim, the depth of Purim, right, is the hands-on experience of feeling really, truly connected, bound, tied up, and held in and by Hashem. So we began this last night. So we're going to finish this piece tonight, B'ezrat Hashem. And what I'd really like to do is teach 2 pieces, just so people to have yumminess for Tanit Esther. So B'ezrat Hashem, the second piece that we'll do is also from the Shalom Rebbe. It's long and it's a lot, and if anybody needs to get off or pause in between because it's 2 different ma'amarim, but because it's Erev Tanit Esther, it just feels like the right thing. Okay, so we are in Seif Daled. This is where we left off last night, and we'll jump in. And hi, Lana. And if anybody has a question or needs clarity around anything, please feel free to unmute. If you feel shy, you could type it in the chat box. So we're continuing where we left off from last night. Okay. So let's take a moment to breathe. And if you like, you can, what I'm going to do, uncross your legs and your arms and open your hands, palms up. And just breathe in the normal, relaxed state. And if you notice any chatter or thoughts or sensations or feelings or ideas or beliefs, you can just notice them and bring your attention back to your breath. And bring your attention back to the sensation and the awareness of your breath, which is something spiritual, something ruhani, interfacing and meeting, right, your finite body. Just notice that space where spirit and matter meet, where breath and body meet. They're partnering, their connection, and their interconnectedness. One supporting the other, one informing the other. So that if you notice your breath moving through your body, you feel more connected to the vastness the infinite expansion, ruach, breath, air, soul. And if you notice any body sensations, anything, tightness, tingling, openness, warm, cold, just noticing what you notice. No judgment, no desire to fix it or change it, just noticing. So we can begin to interact with our body and noticing the sensations in our body. We can begin to notice where we're blocked to the breath coming in, or where it feels tight or effortful or resistant. And again, we don't force anything, just noticing, like very beautiful, curious adventurers, just noticing where the breath flows easily, smoothly. Maybe it has a color, maybe it has a movement, a sound. Just noticing the ruach, consciousness, breath is making contact in our physicality, in our physical body. And noticing what happens in this in-between and also very connected space where the two meet. So we're noticing the connection of light and vessel, consciousness and presence being embodied in our actual physical form, physical body, and all of its sensations. Just noticing. I'm just going to take a couple of more moments to take just very easy and comfortable deep breaths. And you might want to have the intention of breathing out anything that's on your mind, anything stuck or tight, calling your attention or pulling your attention away from this space, from this moment, from this connection of our souls, both right now, live, people who are listening now, people who are listening later to the recording. And just noticing what you notice. Now we can move in just for a few moments to the experience that we call hiskashus or hitkashut, consciously moving beyond our finite and limited form and body, and consciously choosing now with intentions of goodness and elevation and strength and kindness and compassion, actively choosing to connect our lights, our souls, our infinite light flowing through each one of us, and to actively join our intentions to receive what every individual needs to receive from our shared connections and learning, and what the club, the collective needs and wants to receive. And we know, because we're accessing infinite light, infinite goodness, infinite wisdom, we can also choose now to connect our souls and the Shalom and choose the intention of elevating together to an even wider, broader, sweeter, happier, peaceful, calm, harmonious, collected presence. And just noticing what you notice. And notice that you can set the intention to receive this light to the deepest degree that you choose to receive it to. You can let it in as deeply as you would like. You can ask for more if that feels intuitively right. And you can trust the underlying presence of Hashem, of Source. I'm just a messenger, hopefully a good one. That your faith and your belief isn't in me. Your faith and belief is in Hashem, the Source, the Creator. And in Torah, which is the flow of the light as it flows out from Source. You can keep your eyes open or keep your eyes closed, whatever feels good and right to you, however you would like to receive this Torah, these vibrations, these messages, this wisdom, this guidance. Okay, we're in Seif Daled. Ve'al pi hadvarim yesh leba'er ma de'ita b'zohar hakadosh. So from what we've learned so far together, now maybe let's explain what's brought down, or what's written. It's actually really what's brought down, what's said in the Holy Zohar. Shenyan Purim hu al davar yom haKippurim. Sorry if I'm not translating the acronym right. I'm not exactly sure what the Ayin Dalet is, but the heart of what he's saying here is that Purim, we say, is a day that's domeh, right? That's similar to Yom HaKippurim, Yom Kippur. Shalchora and bet inyanim nifradim, but right, it seems, wow, nothing could be more polar opposite, right? The energy of Yom Kippur and the energy of Purim. Shelo karev zeh el zeh. They don't seem to be close. They don't seem to be similar. Achen, but hadavar hame'achdam hu debeshem sheyom HaKippurim hu yom hahitpayasut shel ish Yehudi im Hashem Elokav. Says, so what's the same about them? What's at the very heart of how they're energetically so similar, right? Says, because Yom HaKippurim is the day, right, when we release all grudge, all resentment, right? Mefayes means to appease, to make peace, to soothe, to smooth over, right? Anything that's sticky or scratchy, anything that's separating us from Hashem, right? From Source, from the one power, whose power enlivens and powers all of the parts, all of creation. Shemitabek umitbatel elav michadash. So that we're able to cleave and we're able to melt into, right, nullify into, and be deeply held and deeply connected and deeply bound, right, to Hashem in such a sweet, intimate way, in a new way, and with a new beginning. So Kach Purim hu yom hitpayasut shel Yehudi im Hashem Elokai. This is the same as Purim. Purim is also a day, right, of appeasement, of peace, of soothing over everything that gets in our way of real love with Hashem, our own fears, our own doubt, our own trauma, our own unworthiness, right? Whatever hakbadah, whatever bitterness or sadness we have, and all of the things that keep us from really experiencing connection, that Hashem loves us unconditionally. It is pouring light and awareness and healing energy and consciousness and elevation into us all of the time in the most real, balanced, harmonious way. So he says, Amnam yesh shinui belevush hahitbayasut shebayom hakipurim hi al yedei bechia umerirut. He says, but what's one of the fundamental differences? Even though both are meant to restore connection, right, and restore intimacy between us and our Creator, us and the infinite light. He says, okay, but on Yom Kippur, right, we do it through crying, and we do it through a bitterness. Purim mitoch simcha v'sason. But on Purim, we restore this connection from a state of lightness, of joy, right? Kavanah achati says, but in inside, the kavanah is the same. The kavanah is to come back into connection inside ourselves, and between us and Hashem, and between us and each other. Dekmo sheyesh derech hitpayasut al yedei bechiya u'merirut, that just like there is a path to the heart, and that path to the heart can be through deep crying, and through deep regret, and through deep feeling the disappointment in ourselves, even, not shame, but disappointment, right, and a bitterness at how at the choices that we've made that have harmed us and others, disconnected us from ourselves and from Hashem and from others. He says, "Shehamefayes boche umambia et charatato al ma'asav." Right? So the one who's crying is having this deep experience of crying and regretting, right? Regretting, not because we're afraid of being punished, right? And not because we're scared of consequences, or lefachot, not only because of those reasons, but from a true pain and the sorrow of the suffering that we've caused ourselves and others, diminishment of light, of goodness. Kach yesh derech hitpayasut mitoch simcha. But now comes the Nesivos Shalom and says, there's another way to have that same experience of reconnection. And that, not saying one way is better. He's just saying there's different times, there's different energies. There's a time for deep, deep crying and deep innerness, right, inwardness, even from a place of regret and suffering. But that's not Purim. Purim, the path, is the path of returning through joy, right, through lightness. בעת שאדם רוצה לפייס את חברו, אך מתבייש ממנו. And he says, you know what this is like? And he's saying, please understand, he's saying, not just this is a mashal, not just that this is an allegory, yeah, but he's giving us mamish a Purim map here, okay? So he says like this. He says, you know, sometimes a person really, really wants to make up with their friend, or even maybe not a friend, even maybe a neighbor, or maybe someone in the community, right? Or someone in our lives, or maybe someone who was in our life and isn't in our life anymore. But inside, something's not finished. Something's not at peace. Something hasn't been, there's not a sense of rest, forgiveness, and acceptance and gentleness between the two people. Maybe there is in one person, or yeah, there's something in our heart that still wants to restore flow and connection to whatever degree is appropriate. Yeah, we're talking here on a neshama level. Lav dafka, not necessarily that we would return to active relationship with the person, but here we're talking about mamish in the inside of our heart, and the inside of our soul. And it could be even the top mamish tachlis. We want to be in relationship with this person again in our real daily life, right? Ach mitbayesh mimenu, but we feel ashamed. We feel ashamed. We don't know how to apologize. We don't know how to fix, or we don't know what to say, or we don't know if we should, or we don't know, right? Ad lo yada. Atzato, so he's giving us a piece of advice. And he says, Lihishtakel bayayin, right? To get drunk on wine. Now, understand, there's lots of different ways to get drunk. We're talking about reaching an unself-conscious, vulnerable, truthful, open, spontaneous, receptive, without expectation, but totally open to any possibility, state of being. Right? Here he's talking about accessing that state through a conscious drinking of wine, but there are also other ways to access that state. V'tachat masuha hashichut, I think it's masecha, that's hashichut yelo haometz lageshet lechavero. He says, and now under the veil, right, this protected consciousness that the wine offers, in other words, truthful, vulnerable, unself-conscious flow of a true desire for peace. Yeah. Yellow omat, so you'll have the courage, lageshet lechavero, to approach your friend, to approach your neighbor. And to say to this person, Besimcha. So now the Shalom Rebbe is saying something very important, right? And this is very subtle, but it's also makes a world, the whole world of difference, right? Because he's saying here now, it's not to get drunk and say to somebody everything they did to hurt you, right? It's not to get drunk and say to somebody everything you don't like about them. Yeah? He's saying it's to get drunk and have the courage to say, I want to be at peace with you. My soul wants to have peace with your soul. And he says, now this is part of, right? Because if we're going to do this, we want to follow the recipe that the tzaddikim are giving us. So he's telling us very specific kavanah, right? Before doing this. Right? The kavanah is to expand consciousness, that our self-consciousness, which causes us to feel ashamed and afraid and bitter and stuck, right, and whatever other experiences, right, prevents us from opening our soul and our heart truly to the person. But understand in what state of consciousness are we doing this? Not to blame them or to say, look, now it's the time to have a discussion of all the ways that you hurt me. And right? No. Say no, the formula is to set an intention to restore peace, right? To lefayes means to appease the other person, to restore to a state of gentleness, to restore to a state as much as possible of forgiveness, and maybe even a state of trust, right? And the second thing that he tells us is to say this over to the other person, right? Not in the Yom Kippur way, but in the Purimdik way. What's the Purimdik way? Well, sometimes we don't have words at all, so we say it through Mishloach Manot, right? But here he's saying, if you have the courage to find the words, bring yourself into this state of shichut, of right drunkenness from consciousness, be drunk on unified consciousness, right? So now say to the person, Besimcha, shehachal mehayom, and this is what you say. This is the magic formula. So if you're going to do this, it's in order to say this. That starting from today, niyeh ohavim amitiim. Let us be mamish real friends, true, real. There be real, true love between us, right? Or real, true friendship between us, the friendship of souls, right? The love of souls. נראה לי שזה עוד דבר, זה נראה לי, I'm not certain what the ראשי תיבות are. התבייסות קודם הייחוד של קבלת התורה. He says, you understand that this is following the same map. Whenever we're about to receive revelation and new Torah, so at Har Sinai, we receive Yaseret Adivot, and Yom Kippur, we also are going to receive Torah. We receive the second Luchot. And on Purim, we're going to receive Kimu V'Kiblu, the whole Torah, but specifically the Torah Shabbat Peh, right? The stories, the oral Torah, the way the Torah shows up in our life and in our stories. But before we can receive light and revelation, there seems to be something that we have to do first. And that is, we have to clear away anything that separates us, any grudges, any resentments, anger, jealousy, competition, judgment, hurt, pain, rage, right? Because you understand, we're joining our vessels together to receive light. If the vessels are filled with sticky stuff, right, with tar, with sand, with blocks, right, it limits the flow, and it limits the ability for full connection. So he's saying every time we're going to have new light and revelation, there's going to be an opportunity of first restoring connection. And he's saying, and right, if you need a little help, that's why we drink wine. The purpose is to have the strength to let your true elevated soul and heart speak without fear of judgment, right? Without ego and self-consciousness. But again, not with the intention to blame the other person, but with the intention of saying, right, I'm sorry for whatever I did to cause this disconnection. And from this day forward, it doesn't have to be a big, long talking it out. From this day forward, I promise, right, to try to be in true soul connection with you. Okay. So he says, you understand, this sets the condition and the circumstances of now being able to open, to transform, to receive new guidance, because you're a new person. Okay? You've changed. You've made a fixing. You've made a healing. You've made more channels for light in yourself and between us and other people. Yeah. Okay, so he says, ושניהם בבחינת התפייסות קודם הייחוד של קבלת התורה. יום הכיפורים הוא יום קבלת התורה שניתנו בו הלוחות השניים. Right, so he said, Yom Kippurim is the time we're going to receive Torah on the level of the second Luchot, so on the level of the Yud Gimel Midot HaRachamim, right, on the level of 13 qualities and actions. It's really actions where we express compassion. And the actions themselves help to activate compassion within us. Being patient and Ubepurim kimu v'kiblu kabbalat Torah beratzon. He says, so 1 second. Why do we have 3 main times of receiving Torah, of revelation, and revelation not only on the individual level, right, like a personal meditation or aha moment, but revelation on the level of the connection, right, the connected souls, neshamot, breath of all of Am Yisrael together, right? The first time we have this experience, it's at Har Sinai. We're fixing, right, and something gets broken, something needs a fixing there. And then the second time, we get it on another level, and that's Yom Kippur, right? The level of the second Luchot, the second set of 10 Commandments. And the third time we get it is on the level of Purim, in the level of Torah Shebe'al Peh. What's getting fixed each time? What's the elevation each time? So there are so many beautiful, good answers and layered answers. But here's a really beautiful one. So and at Har Sinai, what needs fixing, right, is bechira, is that real love isn't about force. It's not even about subconscious force. It's not about manipulating. It's not about trying to force someone else to be what we want them to be, to feel comfortable and feel better. Right? It's not about threatening somebody with a loss of love or a lack of love if they don't reciprocate love to us. Right? There's any of these levels of what we call kfiyah, right? Force. So even though it was Hashem wanted more than anything to shower light on us and connection, so much so that Hashem wanted to give us this connection directly, not even through a shaliach or a messenger, not even through Moshe Rabbeinu, right? But we weren't there yet. So for us, it was overwhelming, and it was frightening, and it was too much, and it was scary, and it felt like a lot of responsibility. And perhaps this image of a mountain hanging over us is that there's a sense of heaviness, right? That serving Hashem, being in connection, feels like on some level a lot of rules and a lot of limitations and a lot of direction and a lot of, not really, right, but an experience of a loss of freedom, a loss of free choice, a loss of spaciousness. Right? So part of what gets fixed afterwards, right, is bechira, choice. That's Har Sinai. What gets fixed the second time, hopefully, or gets offered the invitation of it being fixed, at the Egel HaZahav, right, at the breaking of the first set of the 10 Commandments of the Bukhot, what we needed to add into the mix of connection and intimacy was rachamim. We needed to break the idol of perfectionism, of expectations, right? And allow for a path that could contain compassion, a path that could contain mistakes, right? Love that has room for human failure, and a path back to wholeness, right? So we receive Torah then on the level of joining the broken luchot and the whole luchot, and adding in the Yagimel Midot HaRachamim. Adding in that in order for love to be sustainable, whether it's love ourselves, number one, let's say that again, I don't mean ego love. I mean love that we show up in action to care for our body and our soul in ways that promote its health, its goodness, its safety, its body and soul. Okay, so let's now switch to Purim, right? So what's getting fixed, says the Son of the Rebbe, third time around. The third time we have collective revelation of Torah. Now what's the ingredient that we're adding? It says, we're adding on Purim, we're adding our deepest will. Our deepest will. And that the number one ingredient in this recipe for love. So we learned number one, love allows freedom. Love allows choice, right? Real love is not when we take someone captive, even if we want to take them captive, to love them, to help them, to support them, right? To draw out their potential, because it happens with women all the time, right? We see someone's potential and we want to nourish that, but if they don't choose that, then the most loving thing is to release them and let go, right? And both people to move their own, right, forward on their own path. Number two, as we talked about compassion, right? That perfectionism is the quickest and surest way to choke the life out of the flow of love, right? And we're not talking about abuse, to be clear, because sometimes they look or feel similar, but they're not. We're talking about the compassion of holding, that we go in and out of elevated states of consciousness all the time, all day long, sometimes even from moment to moment. We rise and we fall. We have parts of us that are elevated and fixed and beautiful and whole. We have parts of us that are scared and frightened and immature. And when we're in those states, we can say unkind things and do unkind things and do self-centered things and dishonest things or words, or right? But also to hold compassion on ourselves. That it takes time to change, it takes time to integrate, it takes time to grow up. It takes time to become aware and to act on that awareness. Which is, right. So Purim is fixing the level of, maybe I don't know how to fix it through my actions, and maybe I don't know how to fix it, right, through my words, right? But what I know is I can connect to my inside will. My inside will. Because Rebbe Nachman teaches us that everything really truly flows from our inside will. Now, sometimes there's a disconnection as it flows from will and all the way down into manifestation. We get lost along the way, that we get hijacked by old memories and fears and sensations and ideas and beliefs and stories that we tell ourselves, right? We can get hijacked. That's what's called Amalek, right? We're on a derech to connect to our deepest will and to yearn to manifest those deepest wills. We're talking about the inside wills, right? The wills that are placed within us almost so we don't even know why we want what we want, but it just feels so deeply connected to our story, to our journey. So in Purim, he says, we fix the inside will. Because sometimes also, and I heard this from Alav Yuval HaKohen Ashua from Oregon News, and he said sometimes when we've made choices with our will, like a little kid that was like, right, Shalom, nothing happened to the kid yet, but he was like driving a car at 5 years old and like crashed the car, and we're scared to drive the car after. We're scared to exercise our will. We're scared to want anything anymore because we're scared that maybe we're wanting the wrong thing or we'll make the wrong decision, or we're scared that maybe it won't turn out the way that we want it to turn out. So we'd rather not want anything. And that's Amalek. It's to be cold, like towards life. I don't want anything. I don't care. I don't want anyone close to me. I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want to hope, right? But that's not really the answer. The real answer is learning to wield this power of wanting, how to want in a real, truthful, authentic way. Because sometimes what we think we want is really the cry of our trauma self and our midos, right? Reacting and saying, I need that, I want that. And it's beautiful. And we want to listen, we want to hear. But we do a birur, we do a clarification, because sometimes we think it's our highest self, and really it's our frightened and scared little boy, little girl, little child, right? So we deeply listen and we start to pay attention to who's doing the wanting, you know? But here we're talking about the wanting from the space of Keter, right? Our highest inside wanting, what we really want. And Rebbe Shlomo would teach us that it's also to allow yourself to want those things that you don't even dare to admit even to God anymore that you still want. Okay. Any questions or comments until now? Please feel free either to unmute if you have a question or to write in the chat box. Okay, so we'll go on. כל כוחם של ישראל וקיומם הוא על ידי דבקותם בהשם. Right, so the Shalom is teaching us all of our power, all of our strength, all of our ability to endure, to start over, to renew, right? It all comes from the degree that we're able to plug in, right? To attach ourselves in an open, truthful way to Hashem, to the source. she'az ein shum uma v'lashon yechola lishlot bahem. I'm not going to literally translate this. He's saying, and then no other, let's say, foreign part of you can pull you away from that true cord, right? True inner light that you are. V'chen lehefech, and also the opposite is true. כל שלטון האומות הוא בשעה שישראל מנותקים מדבקותם בהשם. The opposite is true. Whenever we are vulnerable to attack from the inner sabotager, to doubt, to fear, right, to stories of unworthiness, to trauma, to terror, to depression, right, all of these painful states, heavy states. Because you know why we're prone? Because we don't know exactly how, but we've fallen into the sensation. We're never really connected. Obviously, we wouldn't be breathing and we wouldn't be alive. But the sensation of feeling disconnected from the power source. Shezeh kol klipat Amalek ve'aman. This is the strength, this is the force of Haman. Those sensations of feeling disconnected, forgotten about, abandoned, rejected, unheard, unseen, or just unworthy for connection, of connection. V'zu hayta to'enet Haman klepei mala. And this was Haman's complaint. This was what Haman said, right, against Hashemayim, right? Yeshno am echad mefuzar u'mefuad v'chulei. Right? There is a people, there's a nation, and they're scattered and spread out everywhere and separate, right? You could even hear that it's shattered. Kmo shamar Chazal, like Chazal say, Yeshno Elokehem Yoshenhu. What is Yeshno? Yeshno literally means there is, right? But Chazal teaches it's code for Hashem, right? Hashgacha Pratit, the source of life, the source of the Creator, is sleeping. He says, oh, what does that mean? I mean, it sounds deep, it sounds interesting and mystical. What does it mean? He says, says the Shalom. You know what it means? It means ha'elokut shebetocham, my inner spark of divinity, my inside connection to knowing my own neshama, my inside connection to experiencing God inside of me, in my life, right? To knowing my own self, to meeting and knowing and accepting, right, my own self, all the different parts, right, that are speaking inside of me and guiding inside of me and judging me and fighting, and right? He says that's what it means that their God is asleep. The God point inside each one of us, right? Ve'enam ma'urishim et Elokim, and we feel blocked or numb at feeling Hashem moving inside of us, through us, in us. Maybe we feel numb, maybe we feel anger, maybe we feel we don't want the connection, right? But it's a state of disconnection and lack of awareness, but even more so, numbness. I don't want to feel my heart anymore. I don't want to be hurt and disappointed. Right? ואינם מרגישים את אלוקים, וממילא אינם דבוקים בו. And certainly if we don't feel light, if we don't feel loved, if we don't feel love, if we don't feel support from Hashem, from the universe, you could say, right? If we don't feel that, then certainly we don't have this experience of being deeply loved by Hashem, the deep intimacy of feeling that we matter, that Hashem is supporting us, that Hashem hears and sees and is responding, that we're in partnership, right? It says, mefuzal, what does mefuzal mean? Hem b'matzav shel pizur hanefesh. The Shalom is saying, yeah, we can understand it on an outer level, but inside of us, it means that inside of us, we feel broken, we feel shattered, we feel disconnected, maybe we feel lost, right? It's a sensation not of shalom, not of all, right, various parts of us working together as a team towards inner peace, towards inner love and acceptance, towards harmony, towards a sense of strength, of integration. It says, no, this is the opposite feeling, like drained of energy, pulled by different parts of us in opposing directions. So we're losing energy, right? And we're losing the force of our will, because our will is shattered. We want this, but we don't want that because we're afraid, right? All the different parts and each one pulling away. Because in order to really feel connection with Hashem, there's a certain level of a calm, centered nervous system, of an inner sense of peace of mind, of mindfulness. In other words, awareness. We're not totally sucked in and directed by this outer circumstances, by the stories, by the inner narrator and the inner chatter and the drama. There's spaciousness around it, or at least we're able to witness ourselves with a chattering mind, or witness our pain, right? But the witnessing allows a certain detachment, not a cold Amalek detachment, a spaciousness to have Hashem fill that space, right? That there's something infinite happening here. There's something infinite holding me, holding you, holding the space between us, holding our relationship, holding the story. Something so much bigger than just little me and little you and our story in this time and in this moment. And the detachment is not to allow in coldness and disconnection. Adarabah, on the contrary, the detachment is to allow air and breath and new life and spaciousness in, right? So that we can calm and breathe and then see the story from a different perspective, maybe from a higher, more integrated, more understanding perspective, that I have my opinion, but maybe there's more than one opinion here. Maybe there's one version, but maybe there's more than one version of the events that happened between us. And we breathe in and allow that spaciousness, again, with the caveat of we're not excusing and apologizing truly unsafe and abusive behavior. Hopefully all of that will get fixed everywhere in the world. But usually the first step in that type of behavior is we need to do a havdalah. We first need usually to exit the circumstances and the story and have a period of time of separation and sweetening later. Yeah. Okay. Any questions or comments till now, to this point? Okay. Okay. So he says, מפוזר הם במצב של פיזור נפש, כי לדבקות בהשם דרוש יישוב הדת, והם במצב של מפוזר. He says, in order to feel Hashem, sometimes a first step that we need to do is to first bring some calm to the mind. It can be through breath work, right? It can be through following our breath, noticing our breath, slowing down, sitting down, calming the nervous system. That allows spaciousness, that literally, physically, physiologically, on the level of biochemistry, it allows more oxygen, right, to our whole system. So the oxygen is also going to move the blood, right? Or the opposite, sorry, the blood moves the oxygen. And the oxygen, when it goes to our brain, it helps us to think more clearly and to make more conscious choices, right? We're saying this also on the level of biochemistry. ומפורד מאחיו וידידיו ואינו דבוק בתלמיד חכם. He says, and also sometimes when we feel disconnected from source, we also feel connected from those around us, right? Especially elevated souls around us. Here he's calling it a Talmid Chacham, but we're saying those around us, right, who are in consciousness, right? People tend to isolate, to disconnect when they feel the inner shattering, the inner scatteredness, the inner sense of feeling not integrated and disconnected. כמו שאמר חז"ל, ובו תדבק בתלמיד חכם, שאף מי שאינו דבוק בהשם, אם דבוק בתלמיד חכם, ובירא השם, he says, because even if we don't know how to connect or bind ourselves to source, to Hashem, to God, right, we can connect with holy people. In other words, we can really holy, we're talking about, not a costume, yeah? We can connect with people that we have an inner sense of their integrity, their trustworthy, of their true goodness, of their compassion, of their spiritual and physical and emotional health and healthiness, right? If we put ourselves in company of people like that, we feel a sense of healing. We feel a sense of expansiveness and hope. And by binding and connecting with people like this, in any case, what you're really doing is connecting to God, because Shekhinah will be between us. Hashem's presence, right? Life and breath flowing between us. ואילו הם במצב של מפורד ואינם דבקים זה בזה, and if we're in the state of separateness, of isolation, right? And we're not connecting, we're not coming together and connecting, וממילא את דתי המלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא אינם עושים, ולמלך אין שווה להניחם. וכמו מרדכי ואסתר, ואמרו לכנוס את כל היהודים כאיש אחד בלב אחד. Right? And so again, we're learning out that Mordechai and Esther revealed a secret to us. And the secret is, it's very hard to feel Hashem's love when we're in total isolation and separateness, when we're cutting ourselves off from other human beings, other conscious human beings who can help support us, right? And who can mirror and reflect to us goodness and true, real goodness, yeah? And he says here, so this is the secret that Mordechai and Esther knew. If you can make peace between people, unify hearts, help people release the buildup of human emotions, the buildup of resentment and criticism and fear and shame and blame and pain and dishonesty, right? And self-seeking, and right, if we can help clear away that buildup, right? That the outcome of that is just automatically then that light and love is flowing, is restored. So there's a unity, and there's a bonding, there's a binding, and there's a coming together, both between us and between each one of us and Hashem. שקימו וקיבלו באהבה ורצון יותר משהיה אי פעם. And now the Nesivos Shalom is saying something so beautiful. And he's saying, you understand that on Purim, we came together in a way that we didn't do on Yom Kippur. We didn't reach on Yom Kippur, and we didn't even reach at Ma'amad HaSinai. This is, right? Why? Because all three things are flowing. Bechila, free choice is flowing. Rachamim, compassion is flowing. And Ratzon, our true desire, our true will. When all of those channels are open and flowing, then real connection can happen, right? Real connection can flow. Okay. So he says, Ki hine Mordechai v'Esther gilu shoresh nishmat b'nei Yisrael shelasham lo higia hapgam. Because Mordechai and Esther were able to take us, right, to the inside. This is a mashal, right? When Esther's going in, she's going to the inner chamber, the Kodesh Kadoshim, right? Not on the level of Achashverosh, yeah, but on the level of each Esther, going to our own inside, the insides of the palace. It says, there's a place where all the demons and dragons attack. That's when we're entering the hallway that leads to the insides. All the fears, all the memories, all the doubt, all the self-judgment, all the self-loathing, all the things we don't accept about ourselves, all the parts that we want to shush and push away, not look at, and not look in the mirror at, and not take accountability for, because they're too painful and they're too shaming and they're too dark, and nobody could love us if they knew or they saw those parts, right? All of that attacks Esther. All of that attacks us because we start the journey, right? Esther to the inside of us. Right? This is a journey that we undertake so we can meet Hashem inside of us. He says, what did Mordechai and Esther reveal? That's just veils. All that stuff is not you. That's things that happened to you, or things you needed to learn, right? Or things you misunderstood, or things that, right, you chose from the old midot, old instinctive desires and instinctive reactions. But under that, inside of that, beyond that, this is what Mordechai and Esther were telling us is, please, please believe in your own untouchable eternal goodness. Please, please believe and see and know and accept and allow yourself to taste your inside true beauty. This is the experience. This is why even the people who get drunk, this is the kavanah of getting drunk. To ask Hashem to give you a taste of your own and everyone else's inside, untouchable goodness and beauty and light, right? Consciousness. עוד דבר המובא הוא בספרי הקודש, שחורבן הבית לא היה אלא בבתי בראי, אבל בבתי גבאי, נראה לי, I don't know this word, I'm sorry, אין חורבן. He says, destruction happens on the finite level. There is such a thing as destruction. And destruction also happens on the outside levels. And the temporary dwelling, right? Temporary states, temporary things can look like, right, destruction. It says, but eternal things that are infinite, no, they're not prone to destruction. Things like real, we're talking about real soul-driven, right, love and connection and will and vision and yearning and tefillah, right? It says, no, those things, because they're connected to the infinite, they're not prone to the same laws as things that are finite, that they rise and they fall, and they're born and they die, right? That those are true for temporary and outer circumstances. But the infinite level, the insides, no, that light goes on and on and on. Part of why we say that even in Mashiach states of consciousness, we'll still have the holiday of Purim, because it's the inside, untouchable goodness. Okay, let's see. Questions or comments until now? Anybody? Let's check the chat box. Sorry, I keep turning on and off the heater. Okay, so he says, ועל כן, בשעת החורבן, היו הקרובים מאורים זה בזה, לפני ולפנים. He says, that's why that at the very moment when the physical Beit HaMikdash was in flames and was being destroyed, the Kruvim were locked in a face-to-face embrace. Right? The inside love, the inside yearning was actually in the deepest states, mamish in the time of the Churban, of the destruction, of the everything falling apart on the outside, right? But because the space between the Kruvim held real intentionality of connection and love, right, and light and awareness, in that space, they were holding on to each other in the deepest, most infinite way, the deepest, most vulnerable, truthful way, like mamish, like two little children, and also, says the Gemara, mamish, like lovers. כשהדבקות והייחוד היו אז בדרגה גבוהה ביותר. And the Shalom River teaches us, if you would only know, right, how deep, right then in that moment that the Churban was happening, that the Beit HaMikdash, the physical outer shell, was undergoing the most massive, being cracked open, being dissolved, right? Right? Yeah. In the inside, the light was getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And this is the greatness of the revelation of the miracle that Hashem showed us. Says the more it says that Hashem is sleeping, we don't mean that Hashem is sleeping. We mean that consciousness in us is sleeping, right? Is unaware, is numb, is cut off, is disconnected. And we don't feel Hashem in us when we're in that state, when we feel numb with pain or suffering or apathy, right, or fear. But this is only happening on the outside, right? What do we mean by outside? All the finite states, all the biochemistry, all the felt senses, bate barai, right? The temporary outer dwellings. Aval bate gavai, I think that's how you pronounce it. Forgive me if it's not. Hem devukim boi barach. But in the inside, it's dafka when everything, as we know it, is falling away, that our inside infinite parts get stronger and stronger. This is, by the way, part of why we fast tomorrow, right? We fast to weaken the finite, right, to body, so that the infinite gets stronger, that the channel gets stronger. Aval bebatai gavai hem devukim bo yiparach lechen kol zeh and אינם מפוזרים, מפורדים, אינו אלא בחיצוניus, that all these states where it looks like we're separate and spread out and disconnected, that's only the way it looks on the outside. אבל בפנימיוס נפשם, in the inside of our souls, אינם מפורזים, there's no separation between us, ואינם מפורדים, and we're not separate. We're not cut off from each other. ובקריאה אחת לך כנוס את כל היהודים, התאחדו כולם כאיש אחד בלב אחד. It says, when Mordechai and Esther sent out the command, join yourselves together, gather everybody together, right? Gather the Yehudim together and be as one. Remember, right? Function in that way of this oneness, right? Kulam ke'ish echad b'lev echad, as one organism, one body with one shared heart. V'kimu v'kiblu b'ahava v'ratzon, and then something happened when we went into that state of consciousness, that this time we were able to receive light, receive Torah on the level of kimu v'kiblu, right, which is on the level of love and will and desire, right? Anything that was feeling from fear, from force, from our darkness, from our pain driving the car, right? All of that is elevated, and now we're coming and we are asking Hashem for connection. We're asking Hashem to enlighten every part of our being, every part of ourselves, every part of our story, every part of our life, right? Not as like something we have to knock off, or right, but that the sweetest, most pleasurable experience we can have is to go inside and experience our own self, experience Hashem dwelling inside of us. Okay. But you understand that the whole key words here is be'ahava u'beratzon. This time it's from overflowing love, will, desire. Please be in my life. Please be close to me. Please guide me. Please talk to me. Please may I know you. Please may I have an experience of you. Right? Please open my heart. Like that type of feeling and experience. Okay, well, this is the last little paragraph. Yesod ha'emunah b'shorosh nitzchiyut im Am Yisrael hu להאמין ששורש נשמתם דבוקה בהשם גם בשעה שאינם מרגישים זאת. Now the Shalom is going to say, but listen, I'm going to let you in on a Purim secret. And you know what the real secret is? Even when you feel disconnected, even when you feel shattered and separate, you should know it's not true. This is the chidush of the Shalom, and he says, here's a part of the secret that our true strength of commitment of seeing things all the way through to the end, right? Of hanging on through the darkest times and the scariest times and the most lonely times and the unknowingness. Says, what gives us the strength to do this? Is because the truth is that at our root, right, our neshama is so connected to Hashem that even when we think we're disconnected, we're so connected. Even when we feel numb, even when we feel angry at God, even when we feel bitter, even when we feel it's useless, even when we feel hopeless, Gewalt, are we connected? It's that kind of love. When you love somebody so unconditionally, you can be angry at them, you cannot like what they did, you can need to talk it out, you can need space, but there's something beyond that that's an eternal love, and not just as a feeling love as it manifests in commitment, in action, in ratzon, in desire, right? Okay, so he says, V'hu bichlal ma'amar רבותינו הקדושים, זיכרונם יעלה עדן, שכל עניין נס פורים שייך אצל כל פרט ופרט, משפחה ומשפחה, דור ודור. And here he says, listen, open your heart, because this is mamish for you. He says, listen, all this light of Purim, it's relevant. Yes, I'm talking to you. It's relevant to the inside nooks and crannies of every single individual, in every single family, in every single generation. That's the lashon of the Shalom Rebbe. This light, this unity, this light, this infinite light that can never be extinguished. He says, yes, I'm talking to you and all those parts that you think are beyond help and beyond repair and beyond fixing. No, I'm talking to you, that part of you. It's being flooded with light all the time, but most certainly on Purim. And again, he says, every part of you and every part of you and every single family and every generation, from generation to generation. That's why this Chag never ends. This is the Chag of infinite, eternal goodness and light. So it can't ever end. Yeah? Says, okay. So he says, Hainu, that is to say, Shagam be'et shenidmeh ki nivke gachalato v'hu menutak meruchak u'muvdal me'Hashem Elokav. He says, listen, I'm giving you here an inside pocket Torah truth, that even when you're sure that you're cut off and that you're far, right? And that you're separated from Hashem, from source, from your own self, right? From knowing, what do we mean? This is also knowing how to value and love and care for, right, in action, your own self, your own body, your own soul. Yeah, because even when you think you're so bad at that and you're so far from it, and who's ever going to teach you this? If you only knew, Ya'amin, Shebebate Bavai Hu Devuk Bashem, that in the infinite dwelling space, in the inside, you're always in the deepest, most intimate, unconditional connection with life, not just as a cute, sweet Torah, for real. But life, Hashem is moving through you in every breath, in every pump of your heart, in every beat of your pulse. That's Hashem. That's the source of life, entering you, enlivening you, supporting you, keeping you breathing, keeping you alive, right? Elevating you. Okay, almost done. And he says, Umayim rabim lo yichlu lechabot et ahava, and many waters, that means many desires, many emotional responses, many physical sensations, many fears, right? Many ideas and beliefs and memories cannot extinguish this inside inner love. V'neharot lo yishtafuha, right? Ki azak hamavet ha'ahava ubepnimiut nafsho keruvim me'orim zeh bazeh. And in the inside of each one of us is the keruvim, right? The two parts, the duality, but facing each other and inviting Hashem into that inner space, into that space of our heart, into the space where breath enters, right? The space between the lungs. Just checking the chat box. Right? Oh, Hashem. Okay. I was going to do another piece on Esther HaMalka. I'm feeling a little physically depleted right now, so at the very least, I'm going to take a break, and maybe we'll do another class tonight, or if not, tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem, because the class that I want to do is another mimer from the Shalom Rebbe, Mamish, and the inner teachings of Esther. I wanted to do it tonight. I have it marked here. I feel like I need to honor my malchut a little bit, my strength in my body. And we'll see. Maybe we'll come back online in a bit, maybe tomorrow morning. B'ezrat Hashem. Does anybody before or after we shut off the recording want to take any piece that they received and turn it into a tefillah, a prayer, or a bracha, a blessing for yourself or all of us? You don't have to. It's an open invitation if you would like to share something with the group, and it's private and intimate, and say a prayer for yourself, right? A bracha, tefillah for yourself. The reason that we do this is to ground the Torah into our lives, into our mouths, into our being, into our vision.
I just want to say that thank you for this year. And what I don't know, for me, I want to make the bracha for everybody that even when we feel separated and shattered and far away from each other and from Hashem, I love what you said, that it's not true and that our soul is still connected unconditionally in love with Hashem. And I think we have to work on it all the time and remember that.
Amen. Thank you. Anybody else? Can share anything before we? Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording. L'chaim, everybody. I hope you